Yeah, tell me what you thought about that.
Hello.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, mutual interviews.
Hi, you too. Look at your
That looks so cool.
room.
Oh, bene. That's about the end of my Italian. That's
pretty good.
Yeah. That's a nice shirt.
Thank you.
Yeah, you noticed?
Buongiorno Marco, come stai? Tutto bene?
Ciao, come va?
Benissimo, grazie. Piacere conoscervi anche se virtualmente.
Altrettanto.
Congratulations for the show. Are you ready for the premiere tomorrow?
Yes. I mean, so we've been working on this for, if you count when we first started writing season 2 during our COVID hiatus, it's been 4 years now. It's a long time to be cooking some soup, and excited now to share it with people and to have them taste it.
You know, on Bad Taste, we like to be technical. We like all the behind-scenes stuff. So I was wondering, since the production moved to the UK for the season, we see a lot of sets from the first season. Did you actually move everything from New Zealand to the UK, or you just build everything from scratch?
Yeah, no, there were a massive amount of containers that were shipped over here. I have a number, but I'm sure it's wrong, so I'm not going to say it. No, we moved a lot of stuff, and then there were things we rebuilt and were able to do, a slight redesign. The crews here in the UK have been fantastic, and the stages have been great, and it's really been lovely working here.
Rings of Power gave you the chance to revisit these characters that you created 2 years ago. The level of familiarity this time around, was that helpful for you in terms of, bringing something else to the table?
Yeah, great question. I mean, what was great was that, the first season, yes, was shot 2 years ago and on the other side of the world. And here we are in the UK shooting it. But what was great was that the Durin and Disa's home was home. And it felt like home, because that's where we shot our first scene. Am I right? In season 1?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So that familiarity was lovely, and doing it with this one is so easy that when we're kind of walking through the markets with a load more dwarves there, and seeing how the rest of Casa lives was just lovely, really lovely, and it was. Yeah, we were able to kind of sit back and rest on what we did in season 1 and focus on other things. It was a lot of setting up in season 1, I think, of the worlds and who the dwarves are, and now we get to drive forward. We see, we are faced with different challenges.
You would feel this more than me because you know where you're going, but I always had a sense of his journey, and you don't want to play the end at the beginning. You kind of want to go, what journey am I going to take people on? When do I start dropping things in? Mm-hmm. But going from season 1 to season 2, enough has happened that we've moved from the known. We're starting to head towards the possible. And for Kemen, he's become incredibly ambitious. He's suddenly hungry for more power, more respect, more responsibility, despite not necessarily having earned it. And I think for me this season, the thrill was trying to get those things, demand those things from people, despite his situation, which I can't say too much about at this point. But how about for you?
Yeah, I think it's lovely coming back, particularly and we just did San Diego Comic-Con, and the last time we were there, no one had seen the show. So coming back after season 1 has already been seen, and feeling the reaction of fans, and I think you only get that in fantasy. You only get that because of Comic-Con, 7,000 people in a room. Normally you do a TV show, you'll maybe bump into someone in the street individually who'll have a reaction to it sometime later. But to have that force of feeling coming towards us was great. So revisiting the character, but also what the writers have done. So you suddenly get a whole new set of scripts, and you go, wow, okay, we're on this journey, and this is the situation that Elendil finds him in, and this is, and how's he going to make the right choice here? Because this is a man that we have to shape into a fully rounded human being, fallible, making mistakes, morally compromised at times. So. And there's so much of that in season 2, and there's just so much more at stake in every scene than there was in season 2, and that's, for an actor, that's the juice. That's what you really want to start playing with, and there's plenty of that in season 2. Very exciting.
And it's nice that, for example, something that got mentioned at the table with these are like resonating, now it gets explored and you can actually see what resonating is. So was it fun to do that?
Oh, Oh yeah, it's really great because, funnily enough, like resonating is her gift. But in season 1, that fun fact, that is actually it's a lament. That was a plea to the rocks, if you like. It wasn't actually resonating, and so now we are seeing her actually resonate for the first time. So it's really great. Sadly, that kind of all shatters a little bit, which I'm sure you've now seen. But it was really, really exciting to kind of revisit that. And again, it's having that, you discover it in season 1, and now we knew how loved it was and how exciting it was, which was really moving for me. I can really play with it. And now we were just finding new ways and new methods to kind of use my voice to tell the story. So yeah, it was great.
Of course, we see some bits in the trailers, but there's a huge battle in the last episodes, I guess, the Battle of Eregion. And, we've seen some battles over the years in TV shows and movies, but how did you work to make it unique for Rings of Power?
Great question. We are lovers and connoisseurs of cinematic battles throughout history in television and in film, and certainly, did a lot of our due diligence on what's been done before, what's been done well before, and we really wanted to find a fresh approach. And I think one of the things is we wanted time to pass in this battle. We wanted it to take place over not just a night or a day, but days and weeks and even months. So, while it's not wall-to-wall action, it starts in the 6th episode and then continues on deep into the 8th. And each episode and each sequence is moving through a new phase of the battle as it moves into different terrains. And, there's an aerial bombardment, there's an intimate battle with a troll, there are, hand fighting in the mud,
there's battlements, there's walls, there's
horse
water,
charges,
there's muck,
urban combat. I mean, we're sort of moving through all the phases of what a siege battle would be and giving you a flavor of each. But we're also, hopefully really cutting it to a performance rhythm. We love the idea of, some of the most emotional moments also happening in between phases of the battle and even during the action itself. You have, in some ways, several different strands of storytelling all coming together here. It's Adar versus Sauron battling over the orcs, but it's also Elrond trying to save Celebrimbor. It's Celebrimbor trying to prevent Sauron from claiming the rings. So there's a lot of storytelling happening that isn't about action against the backdrop of, the most ambitious sequence we've ever attempted on the show.
I think it balances the grand but also the minute pretty constantly throughout. And this is... we haven't seen episodes 6, 7, and 8 yet, so we actually don't know how it manifests. But from what I've heard, it is like it's not just full-on battle all the time. There is a real urgency there's scenes between us that are going on indoors while the battle is raging outside. But and there's a few twists and turns in there that I can't really allude to more than that. But there is a huge sense of urgency and there's a time pressure that we're fighting against inside, which kind of makes it quite a unique situation because a lot of the drama isn't in the battle. It's in the emotional drama of what's going on, and then it eventually bleeds into the battle, I think.
Yeah, it does.
I think Poppy and Ori are amazing together. And what I loved about the first season in particular is this Wandering Day sequence, because I think that it captures the bittersweetness of Tolkien's world. And so I want to ask you, what is it that you love about Tolkien that Rings of Power perfectly reflects, in your opinion?
I would say, I think there's so much community and like an emphasis on the importance of friendship that I think is really sings throughout Tolkien's work and community. So I think that to me would be what is reflected in this series as well. And yeah, really, really trusting in those who are fighting for goodness and a better world.
Yeah, the essence of what it means to have hope, I think.
Tolkien plays with themes, I think, that resonate, with people on a soul level. It's not just about people struggling with their badness; it's about people struggling with their goodness. Every villain is the hero of their own story, and Tolkien says that nothing is evil in the beginning. Even Sauron was not so. And so, we thought it would be interesting to explore what Sauron's positive motivations were, and the idea that he has this vision for what Middle Earth could be, and the idea that he could heal and rehabilitate Middle Earth, and that starting off with with a positive motivation could ultimately lead you down a very dark end if it takes you in a place where you're compelling people and forcing people and using creating objects like rings that you think you could use to ensnare people and eventually puppet master them. So Sauron starts with a fairly positive motivation. It takes him to a very dark place, but he also uses that same path with the people that he ensnares. He takes people like Celebrimbor, who also want to bring beauty into the world, and is able to take that positive motivation and twist it to a dark end. And it's a very Tolkienian idea that it's not just what you're doing, it's how you're doing it that determines whether it's good or evil, or how good or evil it is.
Even there's the conflict Elendil is feeling, because of course he's lost a son, now he has a daughter, of course. His daughter may not be on his side in terms of, what's happening in Numenor.
Yeah, and I think it's almost like there's three divides in him. There's the love of family and daughter, love of country and queen, tied in with duty, and his own faith, what he actually believes. And not all three of those things can come together at the same time. And I think particularly with Miriel, it's doubly confused because it looks like he has some, definitely personal feelings for her, not necessarily intimate feelings, but that there's a love there, and due to circumstance they bonded, and they can only really share their experience. They're the only two people that really know what's happened. And I think with Earion, again, if you speak to Tristan Gravel, your father, he will argue, and quite rightly so, that it's not clear. There's a nationalist point of view, a more progressive point of view in Numenor, and a more conservative, looking to the past point of view. And at this point, which is right and which is wrong? I'd say they're evenly balanced. I think we have a natural affinity for the elves and Elendil's history, and so we tend to think that he might be on the right side of history. But if you look at it objectively, it's sort of unimpeachable, the two arguments. Would you agree?
I would agree.
They're on the wrong side of history.
Well, but am I on the progressive side of history?
There's also a very beautiful scene in the first season where you talk about responsibilities, where Nori says, she feels like the stranger is her responsibility, where Poppy says, but it feels like everyone is your responsibility. So can we expect Poppy this time around to help her with her burden now?
I think Poppy has a very personal journey this season. She sort of gets to explore avenues of her life that she didn't really know existed, and one of those is map breeding and trail finding, and she purposely goes to find them because there is an element of danger that she is aware of for them, and she's with them. She makes that decision, and I think that is something that's very important to recognize. That's a bit of growth in her, that, as I sort of mentioned before, that kind of keeps happening, and I think she's learning how to propel herself forwards and to fight for people, and fight for other beings that she loves and believes in. I think that's something that really drives her. So she's really learning how to navigate that. So yeah, in response, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that this season you had to shoot a lot on location in Tenerife. So you were basically separated from all the other Harfoots, all the other actors. So did you feel a bit closer to your characters because of the fact that you were basically in another country and, in a different part of the world?
Yeah, I think that's what's so amazing about this series, is that it's like it provides you with all these opportunities to be in new places. And I think, especially as Nori, she hadn't ever been as exposed as she is when we meet her in the second season, just, geographically. She's normally with the Harfoots hiding away. And so I'd never been to Tenerife before. And so to be able to be there and also have Nori have never been in a landscape like that before too, really was channeling that energy, and it was great. I had a great time.
Your lips are sealed, of course, but one of the greatest reveal about the last show was Sauron's identity, while this time around, apparently, we're going to have the stranger's identity. So do you feel a little bit of relief that we're about to discover, so no one will ask you any more questions about that?
I think one of the fun things about sort of having this work is to keep the art where it is, which is the experience of viewing. And I think that that's something that I hope that any answers that people have questions to, whatever that might be, they get to experience that for themselves and with each other at home. And so it's just exciting, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for people to see who he is, and it's exciting. It was exciting for me finding out. So, yeah.
I watched the first 3 episodes, and one of the things I was most looking forward to was the umbrella.
Yeah, tell me what you thought about that.
I can tell you that the hype met the expectations.
Great. As long as the expectations were met with regards to the umbrella.
Yeah, I can assure you.
great.
I can't wait for all the audience around the world to see it. So
Yes.
I think it'll be back as well. It deserves its own role.
Of course, one of the most striking things is how you, Charlie, change. But I'm not speaking about, of course, the wig, the makeup, the costume. But you can tell that you study how to speak differently from Halbrand. So can you tell me a little bit about your preparation for the role in that terms?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I think it was the process was all about creating this level of wisdom, right, that Celebrimbor would listen to. And I think there's quite a lot of power in stillness and power in subtlety. So I wanted to kind of incorporate that and a contained physicality. And there's also a slight difference that you have to make. You don't want to get too wrapped up in the elven physicality, but they're very aware of their body and space, and there's no kind of displacement of energy. So I kind of wanted that with Anatar, and similarly vocally, be a bit more regal and have a more I guess I wanted to make sure the tone was consistent, so it ended up being a bit deeper than I originally intended, because I wanted it to be commanding, I guess.
Yeah, it's a bit like, being an actor, I guess, because you're basically Anatar, while the audience in this case is Celebrimbor, basically. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and talking about actors, of course, Charles, I saw the behind the scenes where you basically learn to forge rings. And it's, do you ever find yourself thinking that, as actors, you're basically required sometimes to learn things that maybe you would have never learned in your life?
Oh, absolutely. But this was so great, and it was something that came about. I don't think I'd asked for it. I knew it was coming at some point, and should do, because of course I've got to know what I'm doing. But I had several hours, as you see on the video, of learning and of how to do it, and the teacher I had assembled all these tools and things that she thought appropriate for that, for this world. So there was nothing modern or anachronistic. It was all things that he would have used. So and she loved teaching me that, because it was going back to the old methods, So she was really enjoying that. And yeah, I made a ring, and I'm very proud of that. And I have it at home.
Nice. And
I keep it next to the umbrella.